The smell of sizzling ribs filled the air, thick with hickory smoke and the promise of a perfect Saturday. Music played low, kids laughed in the background, and my smoker was working its slow, mouth-watering magic. It was supposed to be a chill afternoon, until I heard it. "Excuse me, are you trying to kill the neighborhood with that smoke?" I turned, tongs in hand, and there she was, Karen. Arms crossed, sunglasses perched like a crown of judgment, and that unmistakable tone of authority that made even the birds stop chirping. I smiled politely. "Hey Karen, just doing a little barbecue. You want a plate?" She gasped like I'd just offered her poison. "A plate? No, I want peace!" "That smoke is a health hazard. I'm calling the HOA, and the police if I have to." I thought she was bluffing, but 5 minutes later, I saw her phone out, camera recording, narrating like she was breaking news. "This man is contaminating the air and violating multiple community regulations. Look at this, smoke everywhere." Honestly, I couldn't help but laugh. My cousin Jake whispered, "Bro, if she calls the cops, just offer them ribs." No one says no to ribs. That's when the idea hit me. Fine. If Karen wanted to bring in the law, I'd make sure they left with full stomachs and smiles. Sure enough, 10 minutes later, a police cruiser pulled up. Karen stood proudly beside her hydrangeas, pointing dramatically toward my smoker like she'd just uncovered a drug lab. "Officer, do you see this illegal operation?" she cried. The officer, a young guy with mirrored shades, sniffed the air and smiled. "Smells like ribs?" I nodded. "Best in the county. You hungry, officer?" Karen's jaw dropped. "He's bribing you with meat!" The officer chuckled. "Ma'am, it's a barbecue. I don't see any laws being broken." He turned to me again. "You got sauce with that?" Karen's face turned redder than the BBQ glaze dripping off my ribs. That's when I realized this wasn't just going to be an ordinary afternoon cookout. It was the start of something legendary. Because if Karen wanted a battle over barbecue smoke, I was ready to serve it, low and slow. The first cop took a bite of the ribs, and I swear I saw his soul leave his body for a second. He let out a quiet, "Damn, that's good." The other officer joined in, grabbed a plate, and before I knew it, the cruiser lights were still flashing, but now over a full-blown backyard feast. Karen, meanwhile, was frozen on her porch, clutching her phone like a defeated general. "Officers!" "You're supposed to stop him, not join him," she barked. One of them shrugged, still chewing. "Ma'am, we don't see any violations here. This man's just exercising his right to cook." I handed over another plate. "You want to take some to the station?" "Got plenty more in the smoker." That's when an idea clicked. Something petty, but beautiful. If she wanted the cops involved, then I'd keep inviting them. Every weekend. Free ribs, free burgers, free smiles. Operation Free Ribs was born. The next Saturday, I fired up the smoker again. Early this time. I made sure the scent drifted right over Karen's pristine white fence. Hickory, applewood, and a hint of victory. My cousin Jake brought a cooler of sodas. And my wife set up the table with the same sign I'd made just for the occasion. BBQ for heroes. Police, fire, and first responders eat free. And right on cue, Karen's door creaked open. Her sunglasses were back, and she looked furious. "You cannot keep doing this!" she snapped. I smiled, spatula in hand. "Karen, it's a community event. You said you wanted the police here. I'm just making sure they feel welcome." Her jaw dropped again. "This is harassment!" "Actually," said Officer Miller. "The same one from last week?" Stepping out of his cruiser. "This is community engagement. Smells even better today." Karen stomped her foot. "You're encouraging this behavior!" The officer grinned. "If by behavior you mean good food and friendly neighbors, guilty as charged." The crowd around me laughed, and even a few neighbors came over waving paper plates. I could see Karen's composure crumbling like a dry biscuit in gravy. And that's when she muttered something that made me realize she wasn't giving up. "Not yet. If he thinks he's won," she hissed to herself, "he has another thing coming." Looks like Operation Free Ribs had just escalated into something much bigger. By the next weekend, things were getting serious. The BBQ wasn't just a cookout anymore. It was an event. The cops stopped by, firefighters swung through for a plate, and half the neighborhood showed up with lawn chairs and smiles. Even people I'd never met before came just to support the community. Except for one person, Karen. Her blinds were permanently tilted toward my yard now. You could see the outline of her binoculars as she monitored every burger flip, every spark of smoke. Then, on Sunday morning, she made her move. I woke up to an email from the Homeowners Association. Subject line: Urgent complaint, illegal community gathering. Karen had reported me, again. But this time, she didn't just complain about smoke. She claimed I was running an unlicensed food service, causing traffic obstruction and, my personal favorite, creating a cult-like environment based around meat. A cult, over ribs. I laughed so hard I almost dropped my phone. But then around noon, a black SUV pulled up. Out stepped two serious-looking HOA board members in polos and clipboards. Karen followed behind them like she was leading. An investigation for 60 minutes. "There he is!" she announced. "The man violating Section 4, Paragraph C of our community code." I greeted them politely. "Afternoon, folks. Care for some lunch?" They looked at the smoker, then at Karen, then at each other. One of them whispered, "That actually smells incredible." Karen's eyes bulged. "Don't you dare accept food from him! That's how he distracts people." Before she could say more, the officers from last week arrived again. Sirens off but grinning ear to ear. "Heard there was trouble at the pit?" I waved. "You boys just in time for the new batch." The HOA reps hesitated, but one by one they caved. Soon they were eating, laughing, and even taking pictures for the community Facebook page. Karen stood frozen, arms stiff, face twisted in disbelief. "This isn't fair!" she shouted. "You're all being manipulated by meat!" The laughter that followed could probably be heard 3 houses down. But deep down I knew this wasn't over. Karen's pride wouldn't let her lose. And sure enough, that night, as I was putting away the smoker, I saw her porch light flicker on. She was standing there, phone in hand, whispering something to someone. Karen was planning her next strike, and it sounded official. Monday morning came quiet, too quiet. No music, no laughter, no sizzle from the smoker. I was almost suspicious. Then, around noon, I heard the sound of engines, not 1, not 2, but 4 vehicles pulling into the street. Fire department, code enforcement, animal control, and of course, a police cruiser. Karen was standing proudly at the end of her driveway. Arms folded, a self-satisfied grin plastered across her face. "I warned you," she said as the officials approached. "Today this ends. No more smoke, no more chaos, no more criminal barbecues." I kept my cool. "Officers, inspectors, how can I help you?" One of them, a fire marshal, checked his clipboard. "We received multiple complaints about an unsafe open flame, unlicensed catering, and possible noise violations." I nodded. "Ah, let me guess who filed those." Karen stepped forward. "Me, and I expect immediate action." But here's the thing, I'd been ready for this. For the past week, I'd double-checked every rule, every permit, every safety code. My grill was fully compliant, the smoker was contained, and my food was labeled private use only. I handed the marshal a neat folder. "All documents are here, sir. You'll find everything's up to standard." He flipped through it, eyebrows raised. "Well, this is one of the cleanest setups I've seen." Karen's smile vanished. "What? No! Check the smoke!" The officer sniffed the air. "Smells like mesquite. Nothing illegal about that." The fireman turned to me. "You planning another cookout?" I grinned. "Actually, yes. And since you're all here, how about some ribs?" You should have seen their faces. The tension melted instantly. Within minutes, the firemen were laughing near the smoker. The police were helping themselves to seconds. And the code officer was asking for my dry rub recipe. Karen stood there, trembling with rage. You can't just feed everyone into ignoring the rules." The officer smiled kindly. "Ma'am, he's not breaking any. Maybe try joining next time?" That was it. The final blow. Karen stormed back into her house, slamming her door so hard a wreath fell off. The entire street clapped and cheered as I handed out ribs. The smoky air filled not with tension, but with triumph. I raised my tongs like a trophy and said, "To good food, good neighbors, and a whole lot of patience." Even the cops laughed. "You're a legend, man." And from that day forward, Karen never reported my BBQ again. Though, every once in a while, I caught her peeking through the blinds when the smoke started to rise. Enjoying this wild neighborhood showdown? Hit that subscribe button for more hilarious real-life dramas just like this. And hey, drop a comment below. What would you do if your neighbor reported your BBQ smoke?